Hearing how Junwon shrugged it off, Mo Yang remained silent and turned towards his phone once again, typing off. Junwon couldn't care less what the guy beside him was doing as he focused on the middle-aged man standing at the front. After the man took everyone's attendance, he started his class. He started teaching about what a drama was and how there are different types of actors. From the memories, he found out the teacher taught these multiple times already. But this didn't make him stop from listening. He never had any proper lessons when it came to acting and was always very natural at it. But now that he had a chance to build up some basics and not try to depend on raw talent, he was going to take upon it. He continued to listen as the teacher went over the most common methods of acting and how actors take up more roles. Get your avoid ovals at no/v/e/lbn.com. Well, we were able to revise most of the things I taught you guys so many times over the past year. I'm sure you all are tired of listening to the same thing over and over again. You will have free time the whole day for the rest of the week for you guys to practice. Next year is going to be different, as most of the work would be more practically oriented. You will be sent to drama clubs throughout the city to gain more of that experience. So try to do your best in the exam at the end of the week. And walked out of the class. Taking out his phone, Junwon noticed it was time for their lunch break and stood up to go out and get something to eat. As he got up, Mo Yang sprang up and said while clutching his hand, "Come, let's go and get something to eat. I'm very hungry. Let's grab a burger at the store opposite the west entrance. I'll pay, so let's go." And walked in the front. Seeing how persistent this guy was, Junwon sighed and followed him out of the block and towards the west entrance. But as they walked, Mo Yang couldn't keep his mouth shut. "Bro, the party after this week is going to be a bomb. People from all over the universities will come for them. It's going to be a blast. I think we should plan a huge trip this summer with a few people and have some fun. What do you think? I can't wait for the summer to start. I have so many things planned. It's going to be lit." As he continued to talk, Junwon couldn't help but grunt at how annoying he was. He only hummed in response as Mo Yang's mouth did not stop for a second until they reached the west gate and went into the burger place opposite to the gate. There were already a few students eating their lunch, but there was some free place for them to sit by a window. "Man, this place really sells the best burger around here. No wonder there are students filling up this place the whole day. Order what you want, as I said, I'm going to pay for it." Pushing the menu towards him. Junwon couldn't help but raise an eyebrow seeing how pushy this guy was. But he didn't say anything, as it was not something new. Mo Yang was always very pushy and cared very much about his face in front of everyone. He nodded and randomly ordered a burger based on how the picture beside it looked. Pushing the menu back at the guy, he couldn't help but comment, "Man, why did you even join the university? Like it's parties, all the time, and you don't put in the effort to get better at the craft you came here for." Even though he couldn't care any less about the dude, the old man mentality in him came out at that moment. Mo Yang looked up from his phone, surprised by his sudden question. He scratched the back of his head and said with the same idiotic smile, "I don't know, I guess. This was something I dreamed of before coming to the city, and now that I am here, it's fun to go to all these parties. Don't you think so?" Junwon didn't answer his question and simply shrugged. He felt like his shoulders would fall off by all the shrugging he was doing the whole day. He decided to distance himself from Mo Yang. The guy was beyond hope and the more time he would spend with him, the more he felt his brain cells would degrade. Luckily the food came quicker than expected and both of them got onto eating. Junwon couldn't help but nod a bit when he tasted the burger and felt it was not bad. "It's not bad, but I can't eat this daily or this body would go into an even worse shape. Damn, it's really him. I thought he was going to miss the entire day of class. Junwon, here's the money man, I'm going out. Sorry, but you need to finish eating yourself." He felt the table shake as Mo Yang freaked out a little. By the time he looked up, he already saw Mo Yang placing the currency notes on the table while still looking out of the window and moving out of the store in a hurry. He understood what was the rush when he turned around towards the direction Mo Yang ran off to and saw someone walking into the university from the west gate while there was a group around him. Looking at the dazzling group in front of the west gate, Junwon couldn't help but sigh and shake his head. It was a typical famous person in the surrounding mob. He could see Mo Yang reaching the group and trying to interact with a flattering expression on his face, making it a bit disgusting. But he didn't show any of it on his face because he thought little about it. He has been on both sides in such a situation. When he was an orphan and needed roles in dramas around the cities in the kingdom, he flattered many people. He had the exact opposite situation when he was announced to be the bridegroom of the only princess of the kingdom, making him the next king. So he knew why people would try to flatter others, especially people who were of lower status and needed some kind of help from them. Getting flattered was a nice feeling, too. Even though he enjoyed it, he didn't think much about it in his previous life after a few months as he got used to it and was trained to ignore such comments by the previous king. As he went through his memories, he found out who the center of the group was. It was the handsome guy with blonde hair walking in front of the group with a girl pushing herself onto him. His name was Hyang-myung. He was in the same class as him but was on a different level when it came to social hierarchy. He also knew from his memories that the old Junwon used to flatter him a few times in the past whenever he accompanied Mo Yang to parties of that group. The old Junwon was a typical sheep-brained man, where he would always follow the crowd and had no thoughts of his own. The main reason this Hyang-myung was famous apart from his nice looks was that he had a few connections in the star batch. He knew a few people, or so he claimed to the others in the class, making many people want to become friends with him so that they can get to know the star batch people too. Every person in the star batch was either influential or very rich, making many people in the normal batch want to become friends with them. This made him instantly famous after the people noticed him around a few of the star batch members. Thinking of all this, Junwon could only continue to eat the burger in front of him. After having a nice lunch, he stood up, full from the burger, and made his way out after paying at the counter with the money Mo Yang left. He noticed there were a few more minutes before he needed to be at the class and decided to take a walk on the campus. All West CHPTRs on n.o/vli/n/.cm. They left the remaining day after lunch for the drama practice. But most people would not take it seriously and hang outside instead. He slowly went around the campus and saw various groups from other departments going out and coming into the campus. The environment felt good and was very nice. But the walk couldn't last forever as his break was almost over and he got back to the class to see the entire group he saw earlier near the west gate in the class making noise while chatting around. He couldn't care less about the bunch and just went around them to his seat. He noticed Mo Yang was still near the group trying to mingle into it inside. As he sat and looked at the group, he now had a better look at Hai Myung, who was in the middle of the entire group with a smile that couldn't look any more fake. He continued to look around the group until his eyes fell on the girl who was the closest to Hai Myung, throwing her body all over him with thick makeup on her face, making her look more ugly than the original intention. She always laughed out loud for everything Hai Myung was talking about while getting closer and closer to his body as her hands were slowly moving around him. Junwon didn't watch this woman because he felt attracted to her or felt disgusted by her actions, it was because he knew who it was based on the memories and thought to talk with her yesterday after he looked at the script. Her name was Roji, and she was the director and also the person who gave everyone the roles in the class. She also was the person who changed the whole script, making it absolutely trash compared to the original script given by the script writers in the class because she wanted to give more attention to few roles more than others. This made the script completely trash. Yesterday he had thoughts of going up to the director or the writer and ask if there could be changes, try to speak it out if it was a knowledgeable person, but seeing Roji, he threw that idea completely out of the window. Roji, it means wisdom and intelligence. This girl is the complete opposite to it. She looks like a complete idiot. I don't know what her parents were thinking when they gave her the name, but this girl went completely against it. I guess I just need to grit my teeth through this drama with such a bad script. Why does the first time I act after so many years have to be in such a bad drama and role lamenting on his bad luck? As he continued to think about it, he suddenly felt a sharp pain on his back and he could already tell who it was without even turning back. Don't hit me like that every time you want to call me. He couldn't help but grunt as he turned around to look at Cheo Younghwa as she had a grin on her face. Even though he had memories of the old Junwon, he didn't know this woman on a personal level, and before he did, he didn't like people to act too close to him. Don't grumble like a kid for a small hit like that. You are just too weak. I waited 15 minutes for you already and sent you so many messages too. But you didn't reply, so I had to come and fetch you. Now tell me, why are you sitting here and staring at that idiotic group like an idiot, instead of coming to our practice room? While placing her hands on her hips like a boss, she looked down on him. As soon as he heard her counter, he couldn't help but remember their commitment to practice together for the exam in an empty room she found. It was actually Cheo Younghwa who came to him last week and told him to come and practice with her so he could do better in the exam. Even though the present Junwon didn't need her help, he stood up, took out the script from his bag, and simply stretched out his hand for her to go front. As they walked out of the class and towards the empty room, as he followed her, he remembered how much she forced the old Junwon to practice more and helped him to get better the entire last week, taking out some of her own time. His impression of this girl became better as he thought about how she tried to help him. After walking a few more minutes, Cheo Younghwa finally stopped and stepped into a room. Following her, he saw a small room that looked more like a storage room, filled with few chairs and other boxes in the corner. There were 2 chairs laid out normally opposite each other. Junwon went and sat on the chair to the right after he saw Cheo Younghwa's bag on the one to the left. He sat down and waited, as Cheo Younghwa went through her bag and finally took out a set of papers. She handed one set to him and sat down. Junwon, let's go over my role today. I need your help with it. There are many characters I need to converse in the drama, but help me practice the conversation with the main heroine for now. That will be enough. She slowly explained. He knew by her tone that she didn't want to hurt him with her words as they sounded a bit discouraging. He simply nodded, and she continued, all right then, let's practice after an hour. And looked down at the script in her hand. Junwon didn't waste any time either as he looked down on the bunch of papers in his hand. It was the full script of the drama. He then remembered Younghwa's role in the drama. It was one of the best friends of the heroine, so it was a major role with a lot of dialogues and screen time. He also remembered how Younghwa got an important role even after a director like Roji who gave most of the important roles to her close friends. It was because of the vice dean of their major and major luck on Younghwa's side. The vice dean noticed Younghwa had a few skills when it came to acting after seeing her practice her original role, which was not big and interfered. He helped to give her a bigger chance in the exam. But of course, his interference caused many problems for Younghwa too. Roji didn't like how the vice dean interfered in her job but couldn't do anything against him and took it out on Younghwa instead. She spread rumors that Younghwa only got the vice dean to force her because she slept with him, causing her reputation to take a hit. Roji did not stop there and even went after Junwon after she noticed he practices with her. She called Junwon once and abruptly changed his role to a much smaller one. Junwon, being a weak kid, couldn't talk back to a person like Roji, and also couldn't blame Younghwa who helped him practice. So he didn't tell Younghwa that she was the reason his role changed into a smaller one and simply shrugged it off whenever she asked. This kid couldn't even talk back to that idiot girl. He was a huge whip, no wonder he got easily swayed by an idiot like Mo Yang. If he spoke back even a little, I wouldn't be stuck with this small idiotic role. Read latest CH11-20 at n/v.co/m. But this girl Younghwa, it seems like even though her looks aren't a strong point, her skills aren't something to scoff at if she got recognized by a big character in the university. No wonder she has the confidence to get into that star batch. Well, let's help her in this practice. After having his own internal monologue, he seriously looked at the complete script in front of him and started to read it. As he read the script he understood more of the story and most of his assumptions were true, making his conclusion about it being a trashy script come true. He slowly read all the characters which interacted with Younghwa's as it was easy for him to remember because most of the dialogues were predictable as the script was like that too. An hour went by very quickly and Cheo Younghwa stood up before asking, are you ready or need some more time? If you do, I can wait. Seeing how cautious she was, he couldn't help but giggle a little before shaking his head and saying while standing up, no, it's okay. As both of them stood up, Junwon looked at her and asked, "So, at which part should we start? I assume you only need to practice only certain parts of the interaction and not all of them." He wanted to help her, so asking this was important. She looked at him in surprise. She didn't think he would ask her this question as what he said was true. She got most of the common interactions between the two characters down. She only needed help in the more emotional parts of the story. Seeing the confidence in his voice and the calm look on his face, she couldn't help but reply, "I mainly need help in the more emotional sections of the story. It will be fine if you read out the dialogue normally and not put much effort if it's tough." She hurriedly tried to explain after snapping back. She was so concerned that she was forcing him that she did not even know that what she just said came out a bit rude. Junwon didn't mind her words and simply turned around a few pages before stopping on a page that had many dialogues between the heroine and the character Yoonghwa was playing. "Alright then, let's start at this scene. It's the scene where you find out that the heroine is dating the hero and you want to advise her out of it. It carries a good emotion of concern you show on your friend, so let's just start here." Chio Yoonghwa just followed his words and turned the pages. She was simply following his words at this point, surprised by the level of confidence he carried. She looked at the dialogues for a second before looking up at him and giving a nod. "Why did you call me to the back of the school, Yoonghwa? Don't tell me you are proposing." The dialogues smoothly came out of Junwon as he played the heroine role while slowly reading out the dialogues in a teasing manner. The quick change in Junwon's language and behavior caught Yoonghwa completely off guard. She never expected the sudden change and could not reply. She simply stared wide-eyed at him. She did not snap back until Junwon shook her a little. She looked at him and stuttered, "What was that, Junwon? You suddenly turned into a playboy with that teasing voice." I couldn't even react. Seeing the girl's shocked face, he smiled and replied, "I was acting out the role you told me to. If I don't act out the role as closely as possible, how will you be able to improve? Now come on, we are wasting precious time by simply talking. I will read out the dialogue in the same manner once again, so you better react properly this time," making her nod absent-mindedly. Junwon just took another deep breath and started with his dialogue once again. "Why did you call me to the back of the school, Yoonghwa? Don't tell me you are proposing," in the same teasing manner as before. Already seen and taken back once, Yoonghwa held herself before replying in a serious tone, "Don't joke around. You probably know I figured it out, but let me be straightforward. I know you are dating Hye Yeong-myung. I am telling you, it's a terrible idea to do that at this time. Do these when you get into university, when it's freer. Now isn't a good time. Spend more time on your studies and get into that university you always talk about." As soon as she completed her dialogue, Junwon's flirty expression immediately changed into a serious one too, and he replied as he saw the script, "So you know about it. I didn't want anyone to know about it, even if it's my best friend. Just try to stay out of this topic, Yoonghwa. I'm not a kid anymore. I can handle my studies while still dating him. So don't overly concern yourself about it." Sounding very detached as Junwon properly got into the heroine role. The sudden change in his voice and behavior caught Yoonghwa off guard once again. The girl couldn't take in what was happening to her friend, who she always helped to practice his lines and expression and suddenly seemed like a professional. But she quickly snapped out of it to see Junwon with a blank face waiting for her, making her face go slightly red. She coughed and continued, "Don't be like this. Why are you so stubborn? I'm telling this for your own good. Listen to me this one time. If that guy really likes you, then he will wait till high school is over. If anyone gets to know about this relationship you guys are having, things can get really messy. You know how our school looks at these types of things." With a complete concern written all over her face as she took a step forward. Her acting slightly surprised Junwon. He added a few points in his mind and continued with a relaxed expression, "Oh, Yoonghwa. You're always too concerned about so many things. Don't be so pessimistic about things. Have confidence in me. I know I can study well and get into that university even while dating him. Now about the school knowing? I don't think anyone knows about this except you. So everything will be perfectly fine if you just don't talk about it and do things like this. But Riyadh latest OVLS at nv/e/l/by.com. No buts, this is final. If you really are my friend, you will support me in this journey instead of going against it like you are now. Now if this conversation is over, let's go back to the class. Lunch break is almost over too." He cut off and said in a slightly commanding tone before turning around. Yoonghwa stood there as the scene was finally over, not understanding how good Junwon was suddenly when she snapped out of her role. "How did you get better? Last week when we practiced, you were nowhere near this level of acting. You can easily be the lead role of the whole drama with the acting you just showed. This is better than anyone in our class. You could easily get into the stat batch with it." Junwon turned around to see the surprised girl who snapped out and started to fire at him. He couldn't just tell her that the Junwon she saw last week and the Junwon now were two different people and that he had decades of experience in his past life to get this good. "Why would I want to get into that star batch you always talk about? I don't see the point in going to that batch. It's probably a place filled with more distractions. I can only see more negatives than positives when it comes to that place. And the role? I don't need others to know how good I am, it's enough for me to know how good I am for now. I think my skills will shine better if I can act better with the minor role I am given." He shrugged and told his thoughts. Yoonghwa was taken back when he heard his reasoning. It sounded complete nonsense to her. They were aiming to become actors and getting recognition is something very important to them, but here Junwon just said he didn't need others to know how good he was at acting. She wanted to ask him, but Junwon quickly cut her off by turning the script. "Alright, now let's end this discussion here. There are many more scenes we need to practice as there are multiple dialogues. Come, let's go to the scene where you guys fight now." Yoonghwa simply nodded and turned around the pages, and both of them started to practice once again. Junwon started to act out the heroine role once again, showing appropriate expressions when needed, making Yoonghwa comfortably follow his lead and act out her role properly. Check out LTSTVL on novel/bin.cm. After another 2 hours, both of them completed practicing all the emotional dialogues between the two characters. Feeling a bit exhausted, both of them sat down once again, taking a slight break. Yoonghwa went through her bag and took out some sandwiches she brought in the convenience store. She handed one of them to Junwon before she ate it. Junwon looked at the ready-made sandwich in his hand and slowly unwrapped the cover before taking a small bite. This isn't bad for something brought in a store. Even though it's not that fresh, it can be considered a snack, and it's also very cheap. No wonder the old Junwon preferred these types of things over cooking or eating healthy meals. It's more convenient. He quickly finished the sandwich and took out a water bottle from the bag. Drinking some water, he closed his eyes, waiting for Younghwa to finish hers. After a few more minutes, Younghwa finally finished the sandwich and looked at Junwon. Junwon, if you aren't aiming for the star batch, then what do you plan to do? I mean, isn't there more exposure if you get into the star batch than remaining in this normal one? She had a few questions and just wanted to get them out. Well, it depends on person to person. What you said might be true, that there is more exposure if a person gets into the batch, but there are other ways to improve skills and get opportunities to act. One such opportunity is the auditions companies give for smaller rollers and need actors. You can get good experience and also learn by observing the better actors on the set. Of course, we probably won't get taken on our first audition, and if we want to improve, we can try out the drama houses in this city. Arios City isn't lacking drama houses, and we can always go there for a tryout where it is easier to get in an act, to sharpen our skills. There are many ways to improve, you just need to find them. Finishing off what he thought. He was relatively very patient with Younghwa because of her hard-working nature and skills. Hearing what he had to say, Younghwa was shocked at how dumb she was and only thought of one way. Now she understood why Junwon had no interest in the star batch, and now she was also slowly losing interest. She also heard many bad things about the star batch and how the rich kids were there. So, even though she was hesitant about going there, she had no choice. But now Junwon opened a new world for her, with his way of thinking making her contemplate on her plan to strive for the star batch. Maybe I should also take this path. What he said isn't wrong, and it's also a better way to go. The star batch is filled with scum from rich families, and that is also why the opportunities are more there. This way would help me avoid that route. I should consider it this week before the summer vacation starts. Looks like Junwon is going to use the summer to get a few auditions done. She slowly thought about it. Alright, don't think much about it. As I said, it depends from person to person. What I just said might not work for you, and the star batch might be better. So put it aside and let's continue practicing. I'll play the hero role now. There are a few good places you need to practice. So let's get this done. Junwon stood up and looked at Younghwa, who was deep in her thoughts. Younghwa nodded and stood up to continue practicing. It did not surprise her how Junwon said he would help her with another role after practicing with him for the last 2 hours. By the time both of them stopped again, it was already 5 in the evening and the sun was setting. Deciding to just end it for the day, both of them packed their bags and got out of the room. Younghwa quickly locked the door and turned towards Junwon. Thank you a lot, Junwon, for your work today. It was really helpful, and I understood the situation better than before. But I'm sorry that a session to help you turned into a session to help me. It's kinda embarrassing now that I think about it. Your acting skills are way better than mine. You never needed any help, as she scratched the back of her head with an awkward smile. No, it's okay. My role is relatively very small and easy to act compared to your role. I only have mostly one emotion throughout my entire role while you have many to learn and act. So it's okay to not train my role and don't undermine your acting skills either. You are relatively better than most of the people in our class. So just have a bit of confidence when you act and you'll do better. He smiled at the awkward girl in front of him. Okay, well then, I will see you tomorrow morning. We can practice the whole day tomorrow, and then from the day after tomorrow, it's the full-length practice with everyone in it. So let's try and squeeze the most out of it tomorrow. I need to go and drop these keys in the staff room too. So bye. Jiggling the keys in her hand, she turned around. But as she turned around, Junwon stopped her once again and asked, Wait, Younghwa, do you know where the university library is? I need to go there once. He wanted to do some research about this new world, and a library is the best place he could learn about it. The library? Why would you want to go there? She paused and asked in a completely puzzled expression. Art students almost never go to places like the library, as it's almost unnecessary, and it is more true for people in the acting course. Seeing Junwon ask her about the library confused her. I need to look upon something, and the library is a good place to start. So can you tell me the way? Isn't searching on a phone a better way to look up the things you want to know? It will take you longer to search in the library. At this point, even though he has a good impression of Younghwa, he was getting irritated. But he can't lash out at the young girl and simply sighed before asking once again, Younghwa, I like to look up books rather than using the phone. So tell me the way. Younghwa finally understood what she was doing and started explaining the route to the library. But as she did, due to the massive campus, Junwon got more confused. Younghwa finally sighed and said, Wait, I'll show you the way after I drop these at the staff room. Junwon just nodded and followed her. After she dropped them off at the staff room, she led Junwon out of their block and made their way towards the library. The library supposedly had a building of its own with a few study rooms in them for students of normal courses. There was complete silence as both of them did not speak a single word as Junwon looked around the university, taking everything he missed in his previous life, and Younghwa simply didn't know what to speak about, hence causing the super silent scene. Ah, here we are. This building is the library every student of the university can use. You just need your ID card to get in. Alright, then hope you find what you are looking up. Bye. She stopped in front of a building and turned around. Alright, thanks for showing me the way. Have a good day, and walked inside, while Younghwa walked towards her dorms. Just like Younghwa said, as soon as he entered, a middle-aged lady behind the counter asked for his ID card. Taking it out from his bag, she showed her his card while looking around to see rows and rows of bookshelves filled with books. It surprised the woman on the other hand when she saw Junwon's major before getting slightly suspicious of the ID card. Can I ask why a student from the arts major, and that too from the acting course, would come to the library, twirling the ID card in her hand? Junwon sensed her suspicion and couldn't help but think, does it surprise everyone in this big university if anyone from the art major searches for the library? Your favorite ovals at n/VL/bin.com. I wanted to look up a few books on world history. You know, the general knowledge. It's for the year-end exam, which is this weekend. Light at the end. She squinted her eyes a little before turning to the computer and searching up his ID card number in the register. After finding his information, she relaxed a little and opened a book. All right, write your details here and sign at the incoming column, handing the book and his ID card to him. He sighed in relief seeing how quickly it was done and wrote down his details before signing. Passing the book back to her, he asked, "Can I know where I can find books on world history?" "Take a left and then go to the end, that is the history section. If you want books on world history, then it should be row number 1 there," waving her hands, she told him. He nodded and made way, before finally seeing a wood which said, "History section," hanging on the wall at the end. He saw rows of books and went to row 1. He reached out for the nearest book and noticed it was a book on general knowledge of world history for beginners like him after flipping through a few pages. Taking the book from the shelf, he found a quiet place to sit nearby and started reading. He took his time to slowly read the book line by line, understanding all the major events which occurred in the world, like the invention of vehicles, the first aeroplane, the invention of electricity, and many more events. As he read, he became more astonished at how vast the world's history was. Time quickly passed away, and he finished the book as the sun went down and the library's lights were turned on. He stood up after a long time and looked out a nearby window and saw it was already dark. He placed back the book and walked towards the entrance. It was already 7, and he wanted to go back home. The middle-aged woman was still behind the counter as she walked up to her. She looked up and asked, "Are you not taking out any book?" He shook his head, "No, I'm fine. Do you need me to sign anywhere?" She waved her hands and replied, "No, you need to sign only if you take a book out." He nodded and made his way out of the library. He looked up at the dark clouds and mumbled, "This world is so different. The turning point of both worlds goes way back to before humans even had a stronghold on this planet. It changed with the death of dinosaurs. Our world acquired the ability to produce its own magic particles for people to practice magic, but this world didn't have anything like that." He started walking back towards his apartment and continued to mumble, "But people of this world are much stronger intellectually. They found out ways to do things like fly, even without magic. Compared to this world, people from back there are much dumber and can be considered brutes. This world also has a better ruling system. The people were able to overthrow the kingdoms in the past and even establish their own system called the government. This way the country is ruled by themselves indirectly by exercising their voting rights. No one was able to go against us in our kingdom back there. But we could be considered one of the better rulers compared to other ones in the past. This world also only had 3 wars they termed as world wars. The last world war was only a few decades ago against 2 countries, one from the east and one from the west. There are only 4 continents in this world, 2 on the west and 2 on the east. I am currently in a country in the east called Eolis, one of the more powerful countries in the east under the continent Corlia. The other continents were Ursa in the east and in the west were Armia and the other was Rainan Nation. Now I have a basic understanding of this world. This is good enough for now." Nodding his head, he looked around and saw he was already near his apartment. As he was about to continue, he heard his stomach rumble. Remembering that he only had a burger for lunch and a sandwich as a snack, he couldn't help but look around for any stores to eat. He didn't have any ingredients at home and didn't have any energy to buy something and cook after he goes home. Luckily, there was one convenience store across the street. Crossing the street carefully, he got into the store and looked around to see rows of items. He made his way towards the food section and decided to eat something unhealthy and fulfilling. He went across the ramen section, not taking any risk with the weird flavors. He picked up the chicken and continued on. He picked a few rice balls and went to the counter. The guy at the counter looked at his items and asked, "Do you want to eat the ramen here?" pointing at the microwave behind him. Junwon nodded and took out his wallet to give the guy money and noticed he only had a 100 cross note. Cross was the universally accepted currency, and every country on all 4 continents uses them. "How much are the times?" he asked cautiously, hoping it's below 100. The guy turned around and said, "Oh, it's 60," making him sigh in relief. It wouldn't look good if he took out anything with the few items he was trying to buy. He took out the last 100 note and gave it to him. The guy quickly poured some hot water into the ramen cup before closing the lid and passing it back to him with the remaining change. Junwon went outside and sat on the bench right in front of the store to have his food. He kept the ramen cup to the side to let it do its work and whipped out his phone. He wanted to check how much money he had left. Looking through the old Junwon's memories, it seemed like the guy used up the money his father gave for 2 years in only half of its time. As he opened his bank app and went to see its balance, it did not shock him to see the amount left. He had exactly 1,000 cross left. It was nowhere enough to get him through the summer where he might have to travel around the city a lot. This bastard left the body for me in the worst way possible. No proper role, not enough money, such a useless son. Now I can't even ask his dad. I don't know him properly, and even though it was not me who spent it, I am ashamed to ask any amount of money. He couldn't help but curse a dead man. I need to get a job, at least until I land a proper acting role. I need to get one this week, and started eating the noodles. He quickly went through the noodles and rice balls he brought before looking around for a trash can. Fee and up ted ovals on n/v/elbin.co/m. He found one at the entrance and stood up to throw the waste. As he threw the waste, he looked up to see a flyer on the wall. All he saw on the flyer was looking for employees. That was enough to catch his attention. He snatched the flyer off the wall and quickly read through it. As soon as he did, he noticed the flyer was actually for a job in the same convenience store. He felt this was a good opportunity, and the store was also very close to where he lived, making it easier for him to work. With the flyer in his hand, he went back into the store and towards the guy behind the counter. He kept the flyer on the counter and asked, "Does this store still need a job?" not trying to sound desperate. The worker was very slow as looked at the flyer for a few seconds, and just as Junwon was going to ask again, he lifted his head and replied, "Yes, we are still in need of workers. Do you want to work here?" making Junwon nod. "All right then. Let me get the manager for you, so you can speak with him." Stand here for a few seconds and went towards the other end of the store. Junwon remained silent as he took a better look at the store. If he was lucky, this might be his working place for a while. After a while, the room to the back opened and the same guy came out, and this time he had a middle-aged man walking behind him. The middle-aged man looked normal, with neatly combed hair and casual clothes. "Boss, this is the guy who wanted to join after seeing our flyer, outdoor," pointing at him as they came near. The boss only slightly nodded and continued to scan him. "So, you want to work here?" he asked straightforwardly when they were close enough. Junwon nodded, and he continued, "All right, then how many days can you come in for work?" Junwon didn't want to answer this recklessly and thought for a second before replying, "I can come on weekdays and it depends on whether or not I am free on the weekend." Because the summer was around the corner and he would need to go for auditions. "That's good enough. Can you come from tomorrow? 7 CH11-20 for L test vels." Junwon wanted to deny as he thought about the exam this weekend for a second, but quickly remembered his bank balance and nodded. "That's good. Finally, we have someone to fill that idiot's spot for a while. I hope you don't leave very quickly, at least until we find a permanent worker. Tell me more about yourself." He lost his calm face and laughed a little, changing the atmosphere. He looked like a completely different person. Even the guy had a small smile on his stoic face. "Ah, being serious is very hard. So tell me more about yourself." He patted Junwon's shoulder. "My name is Kim Junwon. I'm a first-year student at Aerios University. I'm studying to become an actor." Giving a brief introduction about himself. "Ah, you study at Aerios University too. For acting, you're pretty good. My name is Jimda, the owner of this convenience store, and this is Sindawon. He is a high school kid who works here at night." He introduced both of them. "So did I get the job?" Junwon asked, puzzled how easy it was to get the job at the place. He was only asked a few questions and most of it wasn't even to be discussed before getting a job. He started to think this was all a joke. "Yeah, don't be too puzzled. The boss believes in his intuition and guts rather than any person's background." Sindawon answered. "Well, all right, some with me and we can talk about your salary for the work." Jimda waved his hand and turned around towards the end door. Sindawon stayed behind to look after the store while Junwon followed him behind. There was a small corridor after the door and the boss's room was at the end while other rooms like storage or the workers' changing rooms were before that. Both of them talked for a while before coming to a conclusion on Junwon's pay. He would be paid on a weekly basis and would get a bonus if he worked even on weekends. He only had to work for 5 hours and that was from morning 8 until 1. This worked for Junwon, and after talking with Jimda for a while he learned more about the man. Both came back into the store and Jimda said to Sindawon, "Sindawon, show him the locker rooms and give him 2 pairs of the uniform depending on his size. I'll look over the store until then." Sindawon led Junwon back into the corridor, and this time they stopped in front of the first door. He opened the door and Junwon saw a simple room with 4 lockers on both sides with a bench in the middle to sit on. "This is the male locker room, the females is right next to this one. We don't have many workers working in this store. With you included, we have 4 male and 3 female. There is a minimum of 2 people working on every shift, but today my partner had work to do." He explained and then said as he pointed at the locker to the right end, "You can use that one. Wait a minute, I'll get you your uniform and keys so that you can keep them inside it." Leaving Junwon alone. Junwon simply sat on the bench and waited for him to come back with the stuff. Sindawon quickly came back and gave him the keys and 2 pairs of uniforms. Junwon simply kept the uniform inside the locker and both of them got out. He told both of them goodbye and walked out of the store. Junwon quickly reached his home after getting things done at the store. He continued on home. Reaching home, he dropped the bag on the couch and went inside the kitchen for a glass of water. He didn't have water after eating the noodles and rice balls, making him feel a bit thirsty. Follow EU stories at n/VELB/in.com. He sat back on the couch and whipped out his phone. He couldn't forget to inform Younghwa about his job and that he wouldn't be able to practice with her the entire morning. He felt a bit bad because tomorrow was the only day they could practice individually and after that would be the whole drama practice. He opened up his texting app and sent a message to Younghwa, greeting her after seeing she was online. He didn't need to wait long before Younghwa sent back a message greeting him and asking what's up. "Junwon, Younghwa, I might not come to the university tomorrow morning and help you with your practice. I might be there by 1 maximum." Younghwa, "Oh. What happened, Junwon?" "Younghwa, it's okay if you don't want to tell." He couldn't help but chuckle at how cautious she became after he showed her how good his acting was. He actually appreciated the girl's carefree personality more. "Junwon, why are you so cautious while talking to all of a sudden? Where did the girl who slapped my back for no reason go? Don't be too cautious, nothing really changed, and it just weirds me out." Younghwa's body couldn't help but stiffen a little as she saw the message. She subconsciously started treating him with more respect after seeing how good he was and showed more respect. Awkwardly laughing, she couldn't help but quickly respond. "Younghwa, ha ha ha, I just wanted to show more respect after seeing how good your acting is. Don't be too weirded out about it. I'll be back to normal tomorrow now that you told me. You need to tell me your secret of good acting." "Junwon, there isn't any need to be so respectful just because I can act a bit better than others. We all are the same and have the same starting point. The only thing that makes one different from another is the amount of hard work they put into it. Have a goal and put in some more hard work to reach that goal. I'm sure you will get better than your present situation." This advice came from his heart as he knows that he did not have any talents. It was only his persistent attitude and hard work to act in bigger places and reach his goal to perform in front of his majesty in his old life that he got better. "Younghwa, ha ha ha, Junwon. You sound just like my grandfather. But what you said is true. I'll just have to work harder. I hope you provide pointers tomorrow so that I can get better." "I am probably way older than your grandfather too, young girl." Junwon smiled but corrected his way of thinking a bit. He wasn't an old man anymore and needed to act like how he looks. "Junwon, oh yeah, Younghwa. The reason I called is related to our practice tomorrow. I might not come to the university until 1. So you might have to practice on your own until then, not forgetting the real reason he started the chat with her." "Younghwa, huh? You aren't coming to the university itself? Jun-won, don't tell me you are going to parties with that idiot friend of yours tonight. Don't waste your time, even though you are good at acting, those kinds of places are not good for us. This girl's imagination always looks at the worst probable scenario. How can someone think so, Doc, shaking at how her responses always look for the bad in things. Jun-won, what nonsense are you even thinking? No, I'm not going to any parties today. I'm at my apartment. It's just that I got a job and I'm starting from tomorrow. My shift ends at 1 and that is when I can come to the university to practice with you. So until I come, just practice what we did yesterday and get better at it. Younghwa, what nonsense? You are always going to parties. So me guessing you going to parties is not completely wrong at all. And a job? Are you low on cash? Where are you going to start working? Jun-won, yes, I'm a bit low on cash and need to work a little. I can't ask my dad for cash all the time. I'm going to work in a supermarket near my home. Younghwa, oh, a supermarket. That's nice. I'll drop by if I have time to see you in a uniform working. Tell me where it is. Jun-won simply shared the location of the supermarket and told goodbye. It was tiring to talk with such energetic people as he was the complete opposite and liked to talk with calm people. But his daughter and even his wife were very energetic people, and he got used to it. He stood up and walked into the bedroom, changed clothes to get on the bed. It was already late and his shift started at 8 and so he might need to wake up at 7 or 7:30 to get going. Looking at his ceiling he murmured, after many decades it looks like I fell where I started, working for money, wherever I can. But this doesn't seem bad. With a smile, he closed his eyes and slept. The alarm rang off in the silent apartment as Jun-won silently got up and stopped it. Getting up from the bed, he stretched his hands and made his way to the washroom. While brushing his teeth, he looked at the lean body in the mirror and couldn't help but groan. The body looked too weak. It's sad to say this, but looks are also a major part of acting. Even though I might act well, it doesn't guarantee me a role. I look okay, but not good. I can't change my facial features much, but this body, I need to gain some weight first. He got out of the house with a bag on his back. He was planning to go straight to university after the job. As he walked towards the convenience store, he checked his watch and noticed there were still 15 minutes. Finally reaching the store, he noticed there were already a few students and men in business wear inside, buying breakfast or reading the newspaper. Going inside he noticed it was a different worker and wasn't Sindawon, it was someone who looked like he was in his late 20s. Visit novelbin.cm4 updates. After waiting for some time and noticing the crowd thinning out, he walked up to the man and asked, "Ugh, is the boss Jimda here?" He looked up and asked, "Why? Is there a problem?" Jun-won shook his head and replied, No. I got the job to work here from 8 last night. Boss Jimda asked me to come in the morning." As Jun-won explained, the man had a look of realization and replied, "Oh, so you are the new kid the boss said yesterday in the group chat. Yes, you can go back and change your clothes. The boss asked me to teach you the basic stuff before I get down from the shift at 8:30. So hurry up." Jun-won nodded and quickly made his way back and into the men's changing room. He opened his locker with the keys Sindawon gave him and started changing clothes. He kept the clothes neatly back inside the bag and kept it inside the locker. Wearing his new work clothes he made his way out of the room and back into the store where there were lesser people. He walked up to the man and saw him sitting on the chair behind the counter with a magazine in his hands. He got up as Jun-won got nearer and kept the magazine aside. "Well, before we get to teaching you the basic things, let me introduce myself. My name is Kyung. I work here from 3 till 8:30. So it'll be me you will be seeing every day here." Jun-won nodded and introduced himself too. "Alright, in the morning there will generally be 2 people because there would be more rush. Your partner would come by 8:30. Before then let me teach you the basics." And he proceeded to slowly teach Jun-won the basics. After teaching the basics, he looked at Jun-won and said, "Alright, these are the basics in the counter. Now, try to handle that customer coming on your own. Remember to have a smile on your face, no customer would like to see a stoic face like that." Jun-won nodded and saw a student coming his way with a few items in his hand. Taking a deep breath, he broke the stoic expression and had a slight smile. For him, it was almost like he was practicing his acting skills. "Can I get all of these?" The student dumped all the items in his hand on the counter. Jun-won nodded and slowly scanned through all the items. He noticed there was an instant noodles cup and asked, "Do you need me to heat this up?" Pointing at the instant noodles. The student nodded and Jun-won poured some hot water and heated it up for a few seconds before handing it back to the kid. "That would be 75. Checking the monitor, he told the amount. The student simply handed him a 100 note. Jun-won typed 100 and clicked enter, making the register come out of the drawer. He took out the change and handed it to him. "Thank you for coming. Not forgetting to greet the student." As the student went out, he felt a pat on his back and Kyung's voice, "Not bad for your first time. Your smile looks so real. Well, not bad, you can get by." Jun-won didn't mind the sarcastic remark in the middle and simply nodded. "Well, alright, it's almost time for me to get down from my shift. Your partner should be coming by now. I'll go and change my clothes." He walked towards the back door. Seeing that there were no customers, he sat back on the chair and took out a magazine from the rack beside him. He slowly went through the magazine, not knowing what to do. A few customers came towards the counter and he performed similarly and looked at his phone and noticed it was already 8:45. "This partner of mine is late. I hope he/she comes. I don't want to stay here alone not doing anything," he thought and sat back on the chair. He took out his phone and started reading world news to get more knowledge about the present situation of the world. As he went through the news, he heard the store door open and looked up to see a young girl panting while holding her knees. She stood up and looked around. She saw him and said, "Oh, so you are the new guy. Sorry, I'm late today. But I'm your partner and the name is Gasu.